Welcome to the chaos of my studio. Most women I work with say the same thing. I'm exhausted. But when we look closer, it's never actually about depletion, it's electrical congestion. And that is years of swallowing things like frustration, years of managing rooms, years of being overly responsible. And that, my friends, does not disappear with a nap. It reorganizes when the charge gets a chance to move through the body. So that is what we are talking about today. Hello, gorgeous. I'm Tara Kinden. I work in what I love to call bioenergetic somatics. Most personal growth conversations focus solely on the mindset. However, identity does not reorganize through information alone. The nervous system is electrical. I know, mind blown, right? The body stores unfinished charge. Therefore, burnout is not psychological, it's physiological. So, if you've been following the burnout series that I created, this is the next layer. Let's talk about the electrical body today. The nervous system communicates through electrical impulses. The heart generates an electromagnetic field that extends far beyond the body, 3 to 10 feet, depending on what source you are using. And Heart Math Institute is actually a very beautiful place to find all of this extensive research. The brain also emits a measurable frequency. Your fascia conducts charge. This is not mystical, my friends. It is actually quite measurable. So, when you swallow things like frustration or override your anger or absorb too much emotional labor, that charge never disappears. It stays active in the body, kind of like just hanging out in the background. So, burnout is not only about exhaustion, it's an accumulation of all this electrical load. Therefore, regulation is not just about calming down, it's about reorganizing where this charge is going. Okay, so by now, I like me some real life conversations. You're like, okay, how does this show up? So let me make this really practical for you. You say yes to something you don't want to do, your jaw tightens, everything just kind of like clenches in, your breath shortens, the heat begins to rise in your chest, and you say, it's fine. But your body screams, absolutely no, it's not fine. Like, this is a hell no for me. That is electrical activation. Or let's say you receive, an email that triggers you. Your stomach begins to drop down, your heart rate spikes, your mind starts rehearsing all the responses. If that charge never gets discharged through things like expression, movement, sound, conversation, it begins to accumulate. So therefore, when a woman says, I'm exhausted, but I don't feel like I did anything today, often they were spending their entire day processing all that internal charge. And this is the missing layer. So, if we were going to slow this down for a second, what I'm describing with this jaw tightening, the breath shortening, the heat rising, that is not personality. That is activation. Your nervous system, it mobilizes in milliseconds. And ideally, that activation gets a chance to complete. So you say no, you speak up, you move, you cry, you shake it out, you exhale, you resolve it. Activation, expression, discharge, return to baseline. That's a completed loop. But most strong women interrupt that loop. You feel the activation, you're activated, but then you override it. You do things like you smile. It is fine. You keep the peace with all the people and all the things. You stay composed. You go quiet. Well, that activation never gets a chance to complete. So where does it go? It stays in the system. And when this happens, occasionally, it's not a problem. But when it happens repeatedly, like daily, weekly, yearly, for decades, that is accumulation and that is stored charge. That's why you can feel exhausted even when you're doing nothing, because your nervous system is still running in the background, processing those loops all day long. It's like having 20 browser tabs open in the background. Nothing looks dramatic from the outside, but the system is burning energy constantly. So by the time you lay down at night, you are tired, but still wired. Not because you can't handle your life, but because your electrical system never had a chance to come off high alert and come back down to its baseline. And this is where intentional discharge matters. Not through drama, not through structure. This is why I teach what I teach and what I create in sessions. Before a bioenergetic somatic session, a woman who comes in can often feel scattered or feel like her mind is really busy. She feels tight in her body, low grade activation, anxiousness, fragmented decision making. They are really subtle signals, but during session, they can shift into things like heat or tingling, cold waves, vibration, deep exhale moments, and spontaneous stillness. That is not wooey. That is the body recognizing a sense of resolve. And when that unfinished emotional charge reorganizes, the system gets to shift from fragmentation to coherence. And after sessions, I often hear things like, I feel so much lighter. I feel more integrated, clearer, calm, but I feel energized without feeling jittery. And they sleep like babies. They make better decisions. And here's why this matters. Women after sessions are often able to take action in things that they've been avoiding. They just move more powerfully. They send the email, they have those conversations, they stop over explaining themselves, and they ask for what they need. They raise their prices, they leave the draining dynamics. That's not about relaxation, that's leadership. Regulation creates clarity. Clarity creates courage. Courage, my friends, reorganizes every element of your life. Now, of course, we cannot finish this electrical video without talking about midlife, but through a very different lens. Not about crisis, not about hormones as chaos, sensitivity, because midlife heightens electrical sensitivity. And here's what I mean by that. Estrogen isn't just reproductive, it has a regulatory effect on our nervous systems. It buffers stress, it increases our tolerance, it supports override capacity. So, when estrogen begins to fluctuate, as it does, and eventually decline, that ability to buffer changes. So, you don't suddenly become more emotional, you lose the ability to override what was always there. And that's a huge difference. At 32, you were able to tolerate misalignment so much longer. At 45, your system is like, absolutely not. And that's because your electrical tolerance has shifted. Yes. So when the stored charge has been accumulating for decades through over responsibility, swallowed frustration, chronic vigilance, midlife becomes that moment that the accumulation is no longer deniable. You feel so much more. You also react faster and you wake more easily. You notice what used to numb you, and there's no place left in the body to hide all of that weight. That's reduced override capacity, meeting its stored load. And here's the part that really matters is sensitivity is your superpower because it's accurate AF. When your nervous system is no longer buffered, it becomes precise. You sense what's off. You feel it instantly. Misalignment, things that are misaligned, you detect them immediately. Midlife is not designed to break us, it's designed to shake us out of the monotony we find ourselves in. It's revealing where your system can no longer overcompensate. And that revelation kind of feels a little rebellious, but it's also very clarifying. And think about this, clarity is queen. The clearer you are, the easier for you to make correct decisions. All right, so for this particular part of the video, we needed to come outside and be by the ocean. And let's zoom out for a minute. So you know your body is electrical. It is fluid. It runs on rhythm. It organizes through cycles, and it does not exist in isolation. The moon moves ocean tides through what we call the gravitational pull, and that is measurable. Your body is largely water, and your brain floats in cerebral spinal fluid. So that 5 times fast. Your lymphatic system circulates fluid all the time. Now, I'm not saying that the moon is sloshing your organs around, But what matters more than the tidal pull is actually rhythm. And lunar phases change our nighttime light exposure. Light affects our circadian rhythm, and that circadian rhythm is what regulates our sleep. Sleep regulates our nervous system tone. So when women say things like, I don't know why I feel more sensitive around a full moon, it is not mystical, it's biological rhythm. And even the word lunatic comes from the Latin root word for moon. Like historically, people have noticed behavioral shifts around lunar cycles. Modern research on dramatic behavioral spikes is kind of skewed and a little mixed, but we do know this one thing. When sleep shifts, when the light exposure changes, when collective attention intensifies, activated nervous systems amplify. That is not superstition, that's sensitivity inside of a rhythm. And that same logic applies symbolically to our fabulous Mercury retrograde. People joke all the time about technology failing, but what actually surfaces during those periods is a time of review, communication patterns, unfinished conversations, unresolved loops. And neurologically, when something unfinished resurfaces, our nervous system revisits the charge. It happens almost for the second time, not to punish you, but to reorganize you. So, when women ask, why is everything coming back up right now? Often it's because there was unfinished activation that is now asking for completion. And so, not to explode, but to actually complete it, to finish the cycle. And if you override your capacity, or if your override capacity is lower in midlife, you feel it more. That's not fragility. That's actually a highly attuned system. So, what does all of this actually mean? It means if the body is electrical, if rhythm affects biology, if charge accumulates when it doesn't get a chance to move through, then the goal is not just to calm down. The goal is actually to reorganize because when your nervous system gets a chance to settle, something very simple happens. You think clearly, and when you think clearly, you make different and better decisions. When you decide differently, your life begins to shift in a positive way. And that is the progression. Burnout feels heavy, but regulation creates a sense of steadiness. And steadiness creates coherence. Coherence is what makes courage become available. And courage changes things. It's not like this big sweeping moment, but it can just help you to become more decisive. That's the work. I'm not here to make women sleepy and calm. I'm here to help them feel coherent, to be able to act enough. And bioenergetic somatics is how we move this stored charge so clarity and courage can begin to naturally return. And that's it. This is where the work gets to come in. In bioenergetic somatics, we use sound as a way of interacting with the nervous system. Again, it's not about calming down. And I know that's like thrown out there all the time. Just calm down, go meditate. But this actually interrupts patterns because when charge has been looping for years and years and years, talking about it doesn't always help there to be a completion. And the body needs an experience of that reorganization. And sound gives the nervous system a new rhythm to organize around. And when coherence returns, you feel that immediately. The breath deepens, the shoulders drop, your thoughts slow down. But most importantly, you leave and you decide differently. You send that message, you stop over explaining, you don't absorb what is no longer yours because we're not here to clear away energy. We're actually integrating, the charge and helping it to release like the tide. The tide doesn't create water. It actually moves what's already there. And this work beautifully does the same thing. This is where the wonderful work gets to come in. So, in bioenergetic somatics, I use sound as a way to interact with the nervous systems of the women I serve. Not to calm you down, but to interrupt old patterns. Because when the charge has been looping for years and years and years, talking about it doesn't always complete it. And the body needs to experience that reintegration. So, sound gives our nervous system a new rhythm to begin to reorganize around. And when that coherence returns, you almost feel it absolutely immediately. The breath deepens, the shoulders drop, your thoughts begin to slow down. But more importantly, you leave and you decide differently. You finally send that message. You stop over explaining yourself. You don't absorb what isn't yours. We're not trying to get rid of energy or clear it away. We're trying to reintegrate what's hanging out in the field. And like the tide doesn't want to create new water. It moves what is already there. This work does the exact same thing. Ooh, baby, before we wrap up today's video, I really want to take you through a little bit of a process where you're noticing something. So think about the last time that you said yes when you meant to say no. Don't analyze it, just feel it. What happened in your body? Did your jaw tighten? Did your stomach drop? Did your chest clench or did it heat up? Did your shoulders brace coming up around your ears? That's the surge right there. That's where the charge is. Now, notice what you usually do next because this is really important. Did you swallow it? Did you override it? Did you talk yourself out of it? Most women do not lack awareness, but they do override sensation. And our bodies are always keeping score, they're keeping track of that. So, this isn't about becoming calmer. It's about becoming more honest with what your body is actually signaling to you. And when that surge comes, can you stay with it for 3 breaths? Can you stay with it for 1 breath? Can you let it move instead of compressing it or suppressing it? Can you delay the automatic, yes, sure, no problem? That's where change really gets to begin, not in the mind, but in the moment the charge rises. That's the practice. And over time, those small moments reorganize everything in our lives. So, my friends, if you felt something watching this video today, not in your head, but in your body, that is your signal. You don't have to override it. If what your system is asking for right now is a deeper reorganization, an integration, you can always book a session with me. They are the quiet, precise, and powerful moments of coming home. And if what you need is a daily recalibration, something steady, something grounded, something fun, the inner tide is where I show up every single day with a short little drop that helps you reset your nervous system for the day ahead. And if this is all new to you and you're just beginning to notice this pattern, maybe in yourself, maybe in a friend, you can start with the Tide Check. This is a series that I'm doing on YouTube here, and it's 1 minute, 1 minute a day, very simple, very consistent, and it adds up. If this conversation made you think of a woman in your life, the strong one, the dependable one, the one who always says, yeah, I got it, send this to her. This gal doesn't need any fixing, but she does need to know that she doesn't have to carry everything all on her own. And I'll see you in the next one. As always, remember who you came here to be. Take care, everyone.